My name is Quinn Everett, and I'm 32. The night my boyfriend said, "I need space, let's just be friends," I didn't plead or perform. I rinsed a wine glass we weren't using and dried it until the rim sang beneath the towel one small sound in a quiet kitchen. In my head, I snapped a contractor's chalk line, blue dust drifting for a breath before settling into a straight future. That line was where the rest of my life would stand. Mason leaned in the doorway like he was forecasting weather he wouldn't have to stand in, arms folded, chin a little too high, waiting for the storm he was sure he'd invited by being honest. "It's better this way," he said. Words softened the way you butter a blade. "We still get along. Same friend group. We'd make amazing friends, just not amazing partners." I looked at him long enough to watch confidence harden into expectation. He thought he knew my next move. I nodded instead. "If that's what you want." "You." He blinked, almost disappointed. "I'll stay at Connor's for a few days. Give us both some breathing room." "Okay." I set the glass upside down on the dish rack. "Take whatever you need for tonight." He packed an overnight bag with the selective amnesia of someone who has rehearsed their exit. 2 shirts, cologne, his lucky cap, the things that make a man feel like himself. He gave me a quick, awkward hug, like strangers share at funerals, and left. The latch found the strike plate with a clean, unambiguous click. The hurt arrived like a dull ache that knew its name. Underneath it, something steadier. "Friends," he'd said. Space. The logistical translation was simple. We were decoupling. I opened my laptop and made a list, because lists are how I put the world into drawers that actually close. Shared subscriptions. The master accounts were mine. Netflix, password changed. Spotify family. Remove Mason's profile. Meal kit. Cancel. It was renewing tomorrow anyway. Monthly savings, roughly $100. Not revenge. Arithmetic. The car. 2 years ago, his car died a dramatic death on the side of the highway. I'd just gotten a promotion, so I bought a reliable sedan. Title, loan, insurance, mine. Mason drove it the most because I work from home, and in practice, it became his car. On paper, it never stopped being mine. Liability is a cold, precise word. If we were friends now, then a friend couldn't be the primary driver of a vehicle I was legally responsible for. I texted him, my thumb steady. "Me. Since we're taking space and moving to friends, I'll need the car back. Insurance gets messy when the primary driver doesn't live here. When can I pick up the keys? I can meet you at Connor's." He read it. No reply. Hours went by the way they do, after a small explosion. Quiet, bright, empty at the edges. I made tea I didn't drink. I put his mug on the top shelf where cups go when they're just objects again. The meal kit emailed him to confirm cancellation. Spotify would have logged him out mid-song. Netflix would have stopped recognizing his devices. Somewhere across the city, I imagined frustration curdling into narrative. 2 days later, he gave me the knock I knew was his. Not polite, fast, sharp, insistent. I opened the door. "What is your problem?" he started. Not even a hello. He looked windblown and expensive, like a man who believes a good jawline is an alibi. "I'm not sure what you mean," I said. "My Spotify kicked me out. Netflix won't work. The meal thing is canceled. And now you're demanding the car? What are you doing?" "I'm doing what you asked." I kept my voice even. "Friends don't share streaming accounts or pay for each other's vehicles. I'm tidying things up." "Tidying? Quinn, I said I needed space, not burn it all down. I need that car for work tomorrow." "I understand it's inconvenient," I said, and I meant it. "But the car is my property and my liability. I can't have someone who doesn't live here as its primary driver. It's an insurance issue. You can pick up your things anytime. Just text first so I can be here." His face shifted to the expression I'd seen when he thought charm was a lever and I was the machine it would move. "My stuff? We live here, and that's my car. You bought it for me." "I bought it while we were in a committed relationship," I said. "You ended that relationship. We're friends, remember? This is me treating you like a friend." "This is petty, vindictive." He threw his hands up. "My God, Lena was right about you." The name floated in the air and announced itself like a dropped glass. "Lena," I said evenly, "your ex-girlfriend." "She's just a friend," Mason shot back too quickly. "She's been supportive." "Of what? The part where you asked me to be your friend while you keep the comforts of our relationship?" I tilted my head. "The car, the accounts, the apartment." "You're twisting everything," he snapped. "I asked for a break, a little space. And you went nuclear to control me, exactly like Lena said you would. There it was, shiny as a penny on pavement, a plan built so he could test drive a new narrative without giving up the old one. He'd put me on a shelf labeled patient friend while he took advice from the woman who used to be his future. I held out my hand. Keys. He stared at my palm like it had insulted him. No, I need it. I'll ask one more time, nicely, I said. Please give me the keys to my car. And what if I don't? He crossed his arms. Call the cops? Great look for you. I didn't blink. I took out my phone, not 911, just the manufacturer's app. The sedan was parked 2 streets over. With 3 taps, the doors locked, and the alarm exploded into the evening, a shrill, relentless siren that made the neighborhood turn its head. Mason flinched. What did you do? The car is locked, and the alarm is on, I said calmly. Next step is reporting it stolen. It's in my name. They'll find you with it, and that conversation will not be fun for you. Keys, please. For a long moment, he tested the limits of a silence where only the alarm spoke for both of us. His jaw flexed. He dug into his pocket, angry movements clipped and bright, and slapped the keys into my palm. I tapped my screen. The alarm died. The silence afterward felt like someone had cut the power to a storm. Good, I said. Now, schedule a pickup for your things. You have 48 hours. After that, I'm changing the locks. He stared at me with the kind of hatred that thinks it's power. You're going to regret this. I already do, I said, because truth is cleaner than bravado. He turned and stalked down the hall, fury clicking in his heels like a metronome. I watched him go, then closed the door and leaned my forehead against the wood. My hands were shaking, adrenaline, not fear. This wasn't just a breakup. It had edges and paperwork and witnesses. It had a name I didn't want to say yet. I locked the keys in the kitchen drawer and sat down at the table, the chalk line in my mind still blue, still straight. In the corner of that imaginary room, dust hadn't settled. It rarely does when someone promises you weather and delivers a forecast written by their ex. 48 hours. A clock started somewhere I couldn't hear. I made a second list, then a third. When the pencil point snapped, I let the stub lie where it fell and listened to the apartment breathe the way a room does after a fight. Not relief exactly, just potential. I told myself I was ready for whatever came next. A small voice I've learned not to ignore answered back. No, you're not. Not yet. The locksmith came mid-morning on a Tuesday that smelled like rain. He was the kind of quiet that makes you trust a stranger with your door. 20 minutes, 3 precise turns of a tool I don't know the name of, and the locks clicked into a new alphabet only I could read. I paid him, tipped too much out of guilt for needing him, and watched from the peephole as he rode the elevator down with his little suitcase of teeth. When the doors closed, I took a slow breath and let the apartment relearn itself. New key on my ring. Old key in a Ziploc bag, dated with a Sharpie, like evidence. I set up the small camera I'd ordered years ago and never used. Palm-sized, discreet, pointed at the front door from the living room shelf where a plant could hide it without trying. The feed came up crisp on my phone. The app asked me to name it. I typed, Door Truth. The first trick arrived that afternoon, soft-shoed and automated. My bank texted me to confirm I'd reported my card stolen. I hadn't. The fraud department woman had a voice like warm glass. Someone went through the automated prompts, she explained, but couldn't pass the security questions. We flagged it. We added a note to my account. She told me I was doing everything right. I told her I was trying. The second trick had a subject line that made my stomach turn cold. Mandatory follow-up conversation. The invite came from HR, Susan, and included my manager, Mark. 30 minutes blocked that same day, 20 minutes from now. There's a frequency to panic you can feel in your wrists. I went to the restroom, washed my hands, and watched water slick over skin that didn't look like mine. Mark met me at the conference room door with the small nod of a man who has bad news and wants you to know he's on your side before the words start. Susan sat on the far side of a small table with her laptop open, posture calm, professional. Thanks for coming in, Quinn, she said. We received an anonymous communication with concerning allegations about your conduct outside of work. Company policy requires we discuss it with you. She turned the screen around so I could read. The email was from a burner account and full of rehearsal, unstable, controlling, prone to aggressive outbursts, harassing a former partner, a safety concern for the workplace. It used the kind of vocabulary you get when someone smart gives a liar a thesaurus. I made myself breathe all the way to the bottom of my lungs. This is about my breakup, I said. It's been a week. It hasn't been amicable. My ex asked to be friends and take space. I set boundaries, removed him from my accounts, took back my car, changed the locks. This email is retaliation. Susan watched my face the way a nurse watches a pulse. Do you have any evidence to support that interpretation? Yes, I said. I have documentation of the car's title, loan, and insurance in my name. Texts asking for the keys back. Security footage I installed yesterday because he still had the old key until the locks were changed this morning. I can provide whatever you need. Mark leaned forward, elbows on knees, voice steady. I've managed Quinn for 4 years. We've had deadlines that would make a saint swear. She's level-headed. None of this reads like her. Susan nodded, fingers poised above the keyboard. We'll document your response. Given your record and Mark's testimony, we see no reason for further action. The EAP is available if you'd like support. Thank you, I said, and meant it. Being believed is a kind of morphine. Back at my desk, I stared at my hands until they looked human again. On my lunch break, I walked to a shop that sells locked boxes for people who keep things they don't want to lose. I bought one. That night, I put every document with my name on it inside. Passport, title copy, loan statements, insurance cards, birth certificate, the extra key to a car I intended to keep or sell on my schedule, not Mason's. I wrote inventory on an index card and listed everything, then taped it to the underside of the lid. Lists are how I remind myself that control isn't cruelty. At 11:03 p.m., my phone buzzed on the nightstand with a motion alert. I wasn't asleep. The apartment has gotten good at telling me where the silence is frayed. I opened the live feed. The camera's fisheye made the entryway look like a mouth. The doorknob turned once, twice, slowed, turned again, harder. The door held. On the screen, a familiar shoulder eased into view, then a profile, Mason, lit by the building's bruised hallway light. He tried the key again. When it failed, he stood there a long minute, staring at a door that no longer recognized him. Then he left. I saved the clip. I watched it again because I needed to digest it down to bone. Not rage. Data. These are the differences an HR email can't argue with. Timestamps, images, hands caught in the act of insisting on access that isn't theirs anymore. I lay back and stared at the ceiling, a grid of faint shadows that looked like blue chalk lines someone had snapped and forgot to erase. He's escalating, I told the dark. The dark agreed. What's the move when someone won't accept the smaller losses? You cut clean. You bring daylight. I remembered money. Not because I cared about it in this moment, but because it told a story. When I'd bought the car, Mason's parents, David and Karen, had contributed $5,000 toward the down payment. A gift presented with warm, practical pride. We believe in you two. The kind of gesture that comes with an invisible ribbon that ties you to a future they can see from their porch. Returning that money wouldn't undo the week, but it would put the truth on a table his parents couldn't ignore. It would also make clear I was not the villain rehearsing in his head. The next morning, I typed and deleted 15 versions of the same message. I settled on the kind of language you use when you mean no harm and refuse to lie. Me. Hi, David. Hope you and Karen are well. I wanted to let you know Mason and I have ended our relationship. I'm making arrangements to sell the sedan that's in my name. You contributed $5,000 toward its down payment, and I'd like to return that to you. What's the best way? I didn't add the rest. About the attempts, the alarm in the street, the HR email, the doorknob turning at 11:03 p.m. It's amazing how much a single number can imply. The read receipt blinked almost immediately. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. Quinn, David said, his voice tight, like it had been carrying something heavy for a long time. What is this? Mason told us you two were having a small fight. I sat at the dining table, palms flat on the wood. We broke up last week. He said he needed space and wanted to be friends. I complied. I removed him from my accounts, asked for my car keys, and changed the locks. Since then, someone tried to report my credit card stolen, and my HR received an anonymous email accusing me of being unstable and harassing him. Last night, my camera recorded Mason attempting to use his old key at my door. There was a long, raw pause. Do you have proof? Yes, I said. I can send you everything. Another pause that wasn't quite silence. I could hear Karen in the background asking what I'd said, the way a good person asks for clarity, even when she fears it. David lowered his voice. We're coming down. today. You don't have to. We do, he said, gentler. We need the truth. After we hung up, I sat in the clean quiet and let my heart slow. If a story must be told, let it be told in front of people who taught him the words accountability and integrity. Let it be told with the receipts between us. I texted Mason because fairness isn't a weapon if you don't use it on everyone. Your parents are coming over to hear the full picture. I'll show them the car docs, the HR summary, and the door footage. If you want to be here, be here. If you don't, you can call in. He read it. No reply. I spent the next hour assembling a quiet arsenal. Printed copies of the title and loan emails, the insurance policy in my name, the text thread requesting the keys, the bank fraud note, a brief written summary of the HR meeting. I cued the door clip on my laptop and set the volume low. The car key went on the table, metal glinting like a punctuation mark that says enough. At noon, the intercom buzzed. David and Karen stepped in wearing the faces of people who want to believe their son and also want the world to stop lying to them. Karen brought flowers she didn't need to bring and set them down like a treaty. We just want the full picture, she said softly. I understand, I said. Words can be misinterpreted. Videos are harder. I pressed play. The grainy hallway, the doorknob turning, the pause, Mason's profile, the failed key, the leaving. Karen's hand went to her mouth. David's jaw worked through a sequence of expressions I recognized from the mirror. Confusion, denial, anger. The clear, cool acceptance, grief, sharpens into when there is no other honest choice. He said you were... Karen couldn't finish. I know, I said. I documented everything because I wanted to be sure I was being fair. David took out his phone, glanced at Karen, then looked at me. We'll call him now. Speaker? He dialed. It rang. The call connected. Hey, Dad, Mason said, too cheerful, which is to say defensive. We're at Quinn's, David said, voice flat. She's shown us a video of you trying to use your old key on her door at 11 last night. Explain. Silence on his end, like a curtain got yanked, and he forgot his lines. That's crazy. I was just checking on her. She's been unstable. Karen's eyes closed, as if the word had weight. David didn't raise his voice. He lowered it. She's offering to return the $5,000 your mother and I gave for the car. You didn't mention the breakup. You didn't mention any of this. He let the sentence sit there, heavy as a safe on thin ice. Mason started to talk. The sound scraped, assembled, and reassembled itself, searching for a version of the story that would stop his parents from seeing the outline of Lena in the negative space. Don't, David said quietly. Do not lie to us. The line went very still. Come here, Karen said, finally speaking. Now. I ended the call for them, because mercy sometimes looks like an exit. Then I poured water into 3 glasses and set them on the table with the flowers and the printed proof and the key that meant what it meant. The apartment was quiet, the good kind, but the kind before a door opens and the weather changes. Mason arrived 20 minutes later. I knew he was coming long before the elevator dinged. His voice carried, fast and nervous, leaking through the hallway before his shadow reached my door. When he finally stepped in, he looked different from the man who'd stormed off days ago. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair pushed back like he'd done it with wet hands instead of a comb. But his eyes, that darting calculation, were the same. His parents stood by my dining table. David's arms were crossed. Karen's fingers knotted in front of her like a clasp she couldn't undo. Mason froze when he saw them. Mom, Dad, what are you doing here? Karen's voice cracked first. We came to see what's real. David didn't speak. He just gestured toward the laptop where the still frame of last night's footage waited. Mason's hand on my doorknob. Mason's breath hitched. You let her film me. I didn't let her do anything, David snapped. You had no right to be there in the first place. Mason turned to me, grasping for outrage. You set me up. I protected myself, I said simply. You still had a key. You tried it. That's all the camera saw. His mouth opened, but Karen's quiet voice cut through the static. We raised you better than this, Mason. He looked at her like the room was tilting. Mom, you don't understand. Quinn's twisting everything. She changed the passwords, canceled stuff just to punish me. Because you ended things, I interrupted. You wanted space. You wanted to be friends. I respected that. His laugh was sharp, desperate. You respected it? You humiliated me. You made me look like some leech. You acted like one, David said before I could. Mason's head whipped toward him. Dad! David's tone stayed low, colder than shouting. We gave you $5,000 to help her buy that car because we believed you two had a future. Now she's offering to give it back, in full. Do you have any idea how that looks? I was going to pay it eventually. When? David pressed. After you accused her at work? After you tried to get into her home? Mason's jaw locked. I didn't accuse her of anything. I slid the printed HR summary across the table. The anonymous email was sent from your old burner address, Mason. You used it last year to set up the fantasy football pool at your office. You might want to remember that before denying it. He blinked, color draining from his face. Karen reached for this paper with trembling hands. She read just long enough for her expression to collapse into something smaller. Half disbelief, half grief. Mason, tell me this isn't true. He couldn't. His silence filled the room like smoke. David exhaled through his nose, a tired sound that made the walls feel older. Enough. I don't need more excuses. He turned to me, voice steady. Quinn, we're sorry. Deeply. You didn't deserve any of this. I nodded once. I know it's not easy hearing things like this about your own child. Karen's eyes shone. Thank you for showing us. For being decent. Mason's voice finally returned, raw and childish. You're all taking her side? After everything I did for her? I didn't want to laugh, but something inside me broke open anyway. A small, disbelieving sound that wasn't amusement. You mean after I bought the car, paid the bills, and held the lease in my name? You mean that everything? His face twisted. You're making me sound pathetic. You're making you sound pathetic, David said flatly. Karen stood up, her chair legs scratching against the floor. You need to pack your things, Mason. Whatever's left here, you'll move it today. We'll help you load it, but you're on your own after that. Mom! No. Her voice cracked, but she didn't soften. You lied to us. You lied to her. You lied to yourself. He looked at me then, as if searching for some hidden version of me that might still take his side. There wasn't one left. I'll sell the car this week, I said quietly. Once the funds clear, I'll transfer your parents $5,000. It's not about revenge, it's about closure. David nodded once. Fair. Karen took my hand across the table, warm and shaking. Thank you, Quinn. I wish things were different. I squeezed back. So do I. Mason gathered his words like shards. You think you've won, don't you? I think I survived, I said. He scoffed, turned for the door, and left without another word. His parents followed, slower, older somehow. The door shut behind them with the soft finality of something that would not reopen. The next morning, I woke to the sound of wheels. From my window, I watched a moving truck idle in front of the building. A man in a uniform buzzed my intercom. Morning, ma'am. We're here to pick up Mason Harlan's belongings. I let them in. Mason didn't come up. He stayed in the truck, phone in hand, sunglasses on, pretending the day wasn't happening. The movers were polite, efficient. They cleared his boxes in 20 minutes, labeled clothes, electronics, miscellaneous regrets. When the last one was gone, I signed the paperwork. Downstairs, I handed the movers 2 cold water bottles. For the road, I said. One of them smiled. He didn't say much. He usually doesn't when it matters, I replied. When they left, the apartment was quiet again. But this time it wasn't the aching, post-breakup silence. It was structural, solid. I listed the sedan on an online dealership site. Within days, offers trickled in. Lowball, half serious, then one that matched its value. They picked it up from the building's parking lot a week later. When the funds cleared, I transferred $5,000 to David and Karen with a short note. Thank you for your kindness. I wish you both peace. David replied within the hour. We're deeply sorry for everything. We wish you the same. I blocked Mason's number, then Lena's, then the empty circle of friends who'd chosen gossip over decency. When I finally sat down on the sofa, the one we'd picked together, the one I hadn't been able to look at for days, I realized the quiet wasn't strange anymore. It was peace. The sound of a chapter ending, not abruptly, but cleanly. I let my fingers trace the seam of the cushion, a tiny thread catching the light, and thought, this is what closure sounds like. It doesn't slam, it exhales. And it stays,